Happy President's Day. I know, President's Day is one of those favorite holidays of mine too. I'm sure you have many warm family memories of President's Day. So on this President's Day, which celebrates, the birthday of people like George Washington along with Abraham Lincoln. Alrighty, so President's Day. I'm going to be talking about my presidential book haul. Well, more like a vice presidential book haul with a twinge of presidentialness added in. You see, back in 2021, Walter Mondale died. Now, Walter was the Vice President of the United States under Jimmy Carter from 1977 to 1981. And when he died in April of 2021, he was 93 years old. His family then gave his books to the University of Minnesota, and they said, please give these books to your students, staff, faculty that would be interested in them. So actually, they called it the Mondale Book Fair. And in September 2021, they let students, staff, and faculty in to pick through the books that they had donated. There were stacks and stacks of them. I hiked over there. I'm like, this will be awesome. Who wouldn't want a book or a couple books that were owned by the former vice president? So when I walked in, they had tables, hundreds of books, set up in different tables around this big conference room. And they were labeled literature and Minnesota and political science and history and art history and, what have you, tons of different books. So I made a beeline for the political science and history sections and started looking through them. I was going for anything that might be more associated with Walter Mondale, even though, they were his collection, his family collection. So these were what I found. He had a ton of books on Jimmy Carter, which makes sense. He's the vice president. So this is what I found. Okay, an early book of Carter before he was president. Why Not the Best by Jimmy Carter. Paperback from the 70s. Very nice. So this one is cool. It's The Second Man, The Changing Role of the Vice President by a Michael Dorman, with an introduction by Herbert Humphrey, Vice President, also from Minnesota. Okay, so autograph. It says, for Joan Mondale, who surely is not a second lady. Best, Mike Dorman. Pretty fun. Joan was Walter's wife. So there's this cute one. 60 Years of Independence of Finland. Printed in Helsinki. Then I came across this one. Dinner at the White House by Louis Adamick. Published in the early 40s. And he went to some White House dinner with Eleanor Roosevelt. And who happened to be there? It was like 42. Winston Churchill was dining. Apparently got about the book received a bunch of bad reviews, but alrighty. So there is the autograph. Fitz Mondale, 1947. Awesome. He had other books, poetry books. Oh, this is Democracy and Poetry by Robert Penn Warren, who was a well-known American poet and writer. Won the Pulitzer, all that sort of stuff. Then he had a section on, or there was impeachment by 4 presidential historians, including everybody's favorite, John Meacham. So that was fun. Just never know what people are going to have in their personal libraries. Then there was this. So besides that other Jimmy Carter book, he had a bunch of Jimmy Carter books. And I grabbed a couple, and this one I thought it just looked fun, and so I grabbed it, and it wasn't until I got home that I saw the inscription. Best wishes to Fritz and Joan, Jimmy Carter. Awesome. Oh. Alrighty, this is the one I found. See, I'm sure a lot of people just would have walked by. So when I visited the Mondale Book Fair, it had already started. People had picked over it already. People had already looked at things, and I'm sure the people who set it up had already picked over all sorts of cool stuff. So, you know, here we have a book by First Lady Rosalind Carter. First Lady from the Plains discussing her childhood to the White House. So I'm sure people just, walked right past. I took the time to look inside and found this. This signed edition of 300 copies has specifically prepared for friends of the author. Autographed to Joan and Fritz. Rosalind Carter. Awesome! And then a book, Walter's own book. No autographs or something, but it's just awesome. It's before he became vice president. So obviously, Walter was shopping the bookstores. So, So I found another Carter book. I think there are a couple other ones too in the collection that I did not grab. I only had so much space. Wanted to leave stuff for others. President Carter has written a lot of books. Apparently he's a huge reader and a huge writer. So there are a lot of Carter books out there. No autograph or anything, just, book by Jimmy Carter. Thanks for sharing my Walter Mondale book haul. Happy reading.